What do you call a werewolf with no legs? Anything you like. He can't chase you. Be sure to subscribe to my channel. My mother tried her best to keep me and my brother, Miles, out of the woods behind our house. It was too dangerous, she'd say. We could trip and fall and hurt ourselves. We could get lost. Two little boys could get into all kinds of trouble out there. She went so far as to have an 8-foot fence erected around the backyard, and she padlocked its gate. For some, that may have been enough, inconvenience killing curiosity, but for me and Miles, it only made what lay beyond all the more tantalizing. It was weeks before we finally got our chance to slip out the front door unobserved. Mom was distracted with an overflowing toilet, and Miles nudged me with a conspirator's nod over his shoulder, signaling the time had come. We crept along the hall, down the stairs, and across the foyer, where we grabbed our hats and jackets before making a break for it. It was a cool autumn day, and the leaves crunched noisily beneath our feet as we rounded the house. We were moving fast, nervous that Mom would realize we'd disappeared, and we crossed through the tree line at a near sprint. The late afternoon sun spilled through the leaves in glittering columns, casting the woods in a golden glow, and I followed Miles with a wide-eyed grin, both nervous about breaking the rules and mesmerized by this forbidden place. My big brother took the lead, carelessly stomping his way through the underbrush. We ran and climbed over fallen trees and laughed, unconcerned with the passing of time or that Mom might become worried. We were too enveloped in our mischief. A gentle incline took us down to a stream, and we trailed along beside it for a time, pausing occasionally to skip any suitable stones we found along the way. "Do you think Mum's gonna be really mad?" I asked. For the first time since we'd made our escape, I'd taken a good look around while Miles lined up another rock and realized that our house and its fence were no longer in sight. I wasn't even certain which direction we'd come from. The woods suddenly seemed so much bigger, intimidating, even, and I felt very small. Miles clapped me on the shoulder and grinned with all the confidence of a 10-year-old boy who knew he was up to no good but was certain he could talk his way out of it. "It'll be fine, Warren, we'll go back soon. She probably hasn't even noticed we're gone yet." I nodded, smiling as well. If Miles said it was okay, then it had to be, and onward we went. But Miles hadn't taken into account just how far we really had wandered, or just how late it really was. We had just started talking about turning around when the sun, and the temperature along with it, began to sink. As the shadows began to grow around us, I grabbed Miles' hand and clutched it between my own. Usually, he never would have let me do that, but just then, he held on as tightly to me as I did to him. "See, come on," he said, the bravado from earlier fading as quickly as the light around us. "It's this way." We doubled back, following the stream until we reached its head again, and he started to lead me up the slope. Behind us, twigs snapped. I whipped my head around, but I couldn't see anything in the gloom that had settled across the woods. Miles gave my arm a tug. "It's nothing," he assured me. "Just a squirrel or something." I nodded, not entirely convinced, and we started to climb again. Another twig snapped, this one closer. "Miles," I whispered nervously. "It's nothing," he said again. The crunch of leaves being crushed slowly beneath a heavy footfall sounded right behind me. I screamed and Miles yelled for me to run. He hauled me the rest of the way up the incline and threw me in front of him. I scrambled, found my footing, and I was off. I could hear my brother clamoring behind me, his panicked breathing, and I dared to look back at him. His face was pale, his eyes dark saucers, and over his shoulder, outlined against the night, something was following. Something big. I turned back around and shrieked again. My legs pumped furiously beneath me, but I still felt slow, sluggish, and I kept stumbling on the uneven ground. Miles shoved me along more than once, shouting for me to go. Over our frantic cries, I could hear the thing behind us. Its ragged, deep breathing, its leaden, pounding footsteps. And the smell. A cloying, rotting odor that stung my eyes and made it harder to breathe. My chest burned, my eyes stung with tears. I wanted to scream for my mother, but nothing would come out. Low-lying tree branches, invisible in the dark, clawed at my clothes, and upturned roots threatened to send me sailing headlong into the ground. If Miles hadn't been behind me, forcing me to keep going, my terror might have kept me rooted in place. I might have given up. Warren. Miles. It seemed like such a distant call, but we both recognized our mother's voice instantly. "Mommy." I screeched, "Mommy, help." Up ahead, still a fair distance away, I could see red and blue lights flashing through the trees. I could see the lights from the upstairs window of our house. "Mommy." I screamed again. "Mom." Miles joined in. "Boys." Beams of light turned towards us from either side and radio crackled. "We've found them," a man's voice said. We collapsed into our mom at the edge of the woods, and all three of us fell to the ground, clinging to each other. "We're sorry." I sobbed into her shoulder. "We were being chased, something was after us," Miles said at the same time. The cop's mom had called to look for us, who had gathered nearby and were within earshot, immediately turned their flashlights back towards the woods. They shined them slowly across the trees. Their eyes narrowed slightly, but all they found was an empty forest. "Oh no," Mum breathed softly. "Mommy?" I looked up at her and was confused by her expression, a thin-lipped, tight mask of fear. Wordlessly, she gathered us up and half-dragged us back towards the house, leaving the police still searching the darkness. "What's wrong, Mum?" Miles asked pleadingly. "Why couldn't you do as I say?" she moaned. "Why couldn't you stay in our yard?" "We're sorry," I said. "We won't do it again." "Oh, baby." She glanced down at me. "You don't even know what you've done. It wasn't you going into the woods that was the problem." She hurried us inside and slammed the door behind us, turning the deadbolt into place before looking at us again. "It's what you led back out." Outside, just beyond our fence, the cops began to scream. Hello. I read about the magic crystal in the book. I'm going on a journey to find it. Do not worry, I never stop telling stories. Be sure to subscribe to my channel. I have never posted here before or felt compelled to tell anyone my story. I came across the Three Kings on the front page of Reddit last night and thought I would give it a try, especially after reading the post that it could be explained partially through a scientific method of being psychological. Here is what went on last night. I read the post at around 7:30 p.m. last night and thought it sounded like a very fun experiment. I text my brother-in-law to come over and to bring his big mirror off his dresser. He asked why I told him to check out the top post over on No Sleep, and he immediately called me. "The Three Kings thing?" he asked. "Yup. Sounded like something we could get a kick out of. I replied, then went on to explain the face in the mirror study and how I thought this would be one hell of a good time. I really should have taken things more seriously, I suppose, but, as they say, hindsight is the best sight. He showed up around 9 with his mirror and a large pillar candle. I already had my basement set up the rest of the way. 3 recliners, 1 brown facing north, 1 green facing east, 1 purple facing west. I propped the mirrors up in the east and west facing chairs, set up a pedestal fan on low directly behind my north facing throne, placed a bucket of water directly between the east and west facing chairs, and placed another bucket upside down directly in front of the throne to put the candle at a height that my body would block the fan from blowing it out. We went back upstairs, making very sure to leave the basement door open, and sat down to play a little TF2. Around midnight I told him I would be stretching out for a bit and that if he heard my alarm go off and I did not wake up, come shake me. 3:30 p.m. came faster last night than on any night before. I swear I had barely plugged my phone in and shut my eyes before I was out. I dreamed very vividly during those 3.5 hours. I was riding in the back of an ambulance and let out in front of a large building made completely of glass. I stepped out and the man that had opened the door simply said, "Go, now." I ran to the building and the door opened as I approached. Looking across the building I could see what can only be called a werewolf being let on the other side. In my dream state, I attempted to go back the way I came in to no avail and began running upwards to try and escape, many times only a glass wall separating me from the werewolf on the other. The dream had no end. I simply woke to my alarm at 3:30 p.m., grabbed my fully charged cell, a lighter, the candle, and a small cedar keepsake box, my power item, and headed from my room to the basement. "You ready for this?" asked my brother-in-law. "Absolutely," I replied. "Remember, do not touch me. Yell first, then lights, then call me, then the bucket, got it?" "Yup," he replied and went back to TF2. I lit the candle and headed down into the dark basement, closing the door behind me. The only sound was the soft whir of the fan as I went to the chair. I checked my phone one last time. 3:32? Perfect. I sat down, placed my candle on the bucket ahead of me, lighter in my left pocket, cell phone in my right, my cedar box situated between my knees, and stared off into the distance beyond the mirrors. It was very quiet. That was the first thing I noticed. The fan seemed to have quieted to nothing, and the basement was silent as death. Here I heard something whisper from the left. I almost turned and reminded myself that I was not to look at the mirrors. Here, again. Here. It's over here. More and more insistent each time. Look over here. The voice was so demanding it sent chills through my entire body. "No," I replied simply, surprised at how small and weak my voice sounded. "No, I will not look, stop asking." "Good, from the right this time. You were always so dutiful, but why have you given up trying?" I felt a weight press on my right knee, almost as if someone placed a hand there. It was immediately gone. I see in my peripheral vision the mirror on the right almost rippling like water. The mirror on the left seems to be spiraling inward with movement. You never listen from the left. That's why these things happen. You never learn to listen. That's why I've come for you. More and more aggressively. There are no second chances, there are no other options. You will pay for it, and you will pay what I want to take. From the right. There is no reason not to pay back what is owed to him. Give him what he wants, just take a glance. No, I gripped my box tighter. "What is this?" I asked. "What am I hearing?" From the left, judgment. from the right fate. In unison, you should have just let him catch you and been done with it. The dream immediately came back to mind. It was only a dream, I whispered, just like this is. This is no dream, fool, came the voice from the left. You were never good at entertaining new ideas, fool, came the voice from the right. Now accept what has to happen. A splash of cold water awoke me from whatever it was going on around me. I looked up from the floor to see my brother-in-law standing over me with an empty bucket, lights on fully above me. What the hell, man? I called you 5 times before I turned on the lights and stood here yelling before I soaked you. What the hell, man? I don't know, I replied, looking down at my cell and seeing the missed calls. At 4:35 p.m. there were 5 missed calls. I really have no idea. It was 4:35 p.m. Hello. The dragon is looking for this rabbit to eat it. I don't want to be a hero, but I can't sacrifice this cute bunny. Be sure to subscribe to my channel. I push open the heavy oak door, snow flutters in through the open doorway. It's completely dark inside. The room smells moldy, like mildew, with a trace of canine hanging in the air. I have a dog at home, and recognized the oily scent of fur with a hint of musk. Maybe whoever lived here had a dog. It's getting dark outside too. The snow is really falling now, in swirling tufts instead of flakes, the wind screaming and howling at the snow for it to fall faster. I shut the door. Complete darkness engulfs me. I feel my way around the room. Strangely, a few embers are smoldering in the fireplace. I kneel down and blow the life back into the embers, convincing the reluctant wood to burn. Warmth cascades over my hands. It was at this point when I realized how cold I am. My fingers are numb and rigid, and I am shivering. I shuffle a little closer to the fire as a wave of drowsiness swept over me, and my hands slip onto the warm the stock of my rifle as I make my way into the forest, alert for every movement. Then, a flash of fur on the edge of my vision, and the light step of hooves on the snow-covered forest floor. An unsuspecting elk, grazing in a clearing. I drop down on all fours and crawl downwind of the elk lithe as a cat. I line up my shot, and blood dyes the snow red. I get up and walk to the elk, and start skinning it with my knife. Then I start dragging the heavy body of the elk towards the edge of the forest. I pause at a riverbank to catch my breath, but as I walk onto the surface of the long frozen river, I slip on the ice and fall face forward onto the cold stones in front of the fireplace. I must have dozed off. The fireplace is cold and filled with ash, the brilliant radiance of fire long gone. Well, there's no hope of lighting that up again, I thought gloomily. I walked to the table. There was a journal on it, titled, Journal of Damarcus. The name sounds familiar, but I can't recall when I've heard it before. Then I notice a metallic scent hanging in the air. A very familiar metallic scent. A scent which I smelled barely an hour ago. Blood. Cautiously, I get up and follow the scent, feeling my way around the room. In the darkness, I slip and fall onto the stones. The stones were smooth here somehow, smoother than the stone in front of the fireplace at any rate. No, not smooth, slick, with blood. But not human blood. The dead moose was barely 4 inches in front of my face. Its head turned to face the door. No, not head. What remained of its head? The left chunk of the head of the moose had been cleanly torn off. There were bite marks on what was left of its neck. How did a moose get in here? What killed it? These thoughts run through my head, as I try to remember the jaw width of my wolfhound, comparing them with the bite marks on the severed neck. They were of similar width. But a wolfhound doesn't have the dexterity and jaw power for doing this, I thought blearily to myself as another wave of the stench of the rotting elk hit me. I feel nauseous, and then from somewhere deep in the forest, something started howling. Winds buffeted me back as I struggled to walk. I dropped the elk and head towards the safety of a nearby village. I could pick it up tomorrow, it wouldn't rot, not in this weather. My fall hadn't helped with my sense of direction. I continue walking towards where I think the village lay, but now the blinding whiteness of snow obscured my vision. A blizzard had formed. I needed to find shelter fast. After an eternity of stumbling in the knee-deep snow, I glimpse a streak of brown. I double back, praying that I had really seen what I thought I did. And I found the hut rising out of the bleak white expanse. Shelter. I tried to push the snow out of my way. Now I realize how stupid describing legs as a leader is. My legs aren't lead, they're fucking permafrost. I can't feel my lower body now. I think the hut is still in front of me. Not sure how far it is. Wait. I don't think. Don't move my legs now. You know what, fuck this, I'm screwed. I can't even see the hut and it's probably just 5 meters in front of me. I'm going to die out here. At times like this, I wish I was religious, so I would believe firmly that when I die, I will go to heaven. Maybe I'll find out. Maybe. It's just a wolf somewhere in the forest. The blizzard had stopped a while ago. Stars started to shine faintly, and the moon had risen high above the forest. Another howl, closer this time. Shuffling snow. Leaves crunching. The soft pat-pat sounds of paws on stone. Scratching at the door. The scratching stopped. My heart slowed a little. Blissful silence, broken by the loud thump of flesh against wood. Hinges creak. Something smashes into the door again. This time, pieces of wood fall off the inner side of the door. Another smack. Wood splinters along grains. Something tells me the door won't hold for long. I stand up, pointing my rifle straight at the door. The rifle is wet. I'm not sure if it will reload properly. I only have one shot at whatever was on the other side of the door. A loud thud as something charged at the door again. For a moment, I thought the door would hold, but the old rotting wood caved in to reveal a monstrosity of a wolf charging right at me. I pull the trigger. The rifle jolts my shoulder. The bullet flies straight towards the wolf. It hits the wolf's hide. The tip bends but does not penetrate. It falls uselessly to the ground. The copper and lead bullet. A memory comes back to me in a flash. Damarcus. The original werewolf. The wolf stops for a moment, appearing to be jarred by the impact of the bullet. Seizing this chance, I run straight for the door. The wolf bites my leg as I run past, tearing into flesh. I smash the rifle into the wolf with so much force that it snaps in half. The temporarily stunned wolf loosened its jaws, and I run with a limp into the forest. I collapse into the snow, but I realize that I feel no cold. Instead, indescribable agony was surging into its place, and I have a sickening feeling that this pain wasn't coming from the wound in my leg. I am turning into a wolf. And as I felt the last shreds of my human consciousness slip away, as another wave of scorching pain racks my body, as the world turned into a kaleidoscope of smell and hearing, I knew what they felt. 20 years since then, I have known for a long time that I would never age again, never be harmed by anything but silver and fire again, and never be truly human again. I am forever trapped, shackled by fate to live forever between the human and the canine world. I am driven by hunger and thirst, and pain. Pain most of all. The pain of transformation. Enough pain to want to tear into every living being around me so that they may feel some of the burning agony coursing through me. Even right now, when I am as human as I ever will be, I feel the dull ache of hunger pulling me towards human prey. So I am writing this as a note of caution. I could have been the stray dog you saw in the street last night. I could be your nice neighbor who is always polite and kind. I could be your daughter's nice, understanding teacher. Or I could be outside your door right now, practically tasting the smell of human flesh. Hunger gnawing at me, ready to transform the instant you open the door.